Well, the nice things about the sun being out later, I can use natural light from this angle, depending on when I shoot. So I have continued to watch Westworld. I missed reviewing the previous week's episode, just life. So I'm going to talk about that one and the most recent one that aired. So the second and third episodes of the third season. It's American TV. I should say season. I talk about Doctor Who too much. British TV, they call them series. Anyways, so this, I am enjoying it, but this is a strange beast of a season. It really does have such a different feel that in many ways it feels like the characters, or at least some of them, were transposed into a completely new setting from the ground up. It's almost like a weird alternate version of that. Or you know what it is? It's almost like when you know the cast of your local community theater and you're seeing the same people doing something a bit different but still playing to their strengths and what they're good at characterizing. It feels a bit like that. I don't know if that analogy connects with anybody, but that's sort of where I am thinking about this. And there's a lot to figure out. I would imagine the lore junkies and continuity hounds are going nuts trying to put all the pieces together with things like what personalities are in what physical bodies at this point and where everybody is, especially after the third one where, after the first one, after it seems like there's more than one person occupying Bernard, and then we are dealing with Charlotte, and I remember it being implied to be Teddy. I don't think they officially confirmed that in universe that is who is in there. And we've got other people because we saw how many little nodes, balls, whatever they are, that Dolores had. So there's still some unaccounted for at this point. The whole thing with Vincent Cassel's character, and who basically has come out of nowhere, I'm not sure he's working yet. It's one of those things where they needed someone to exert a ton of influence, and I guess for the amount of power the person currently has to have, it didn't work to have the Man in Black, William, to be that, because he was sort of left in not the best position at the end of the previous season, so they just invented somebody, but it really does feel like we should have more of a sense of who the heck this is. And we don't yet. Maeve's whole thing was interesting. It was interesting to watch her basically break out again. She's good for that. She's very good at figuring out what's going on around her. And Tandy Newton is terrific at conveying so much thought process through her face. So she absolutely nails that. So that one was fun. And also the Nazi setting was enjoyable in that sort of Indiana Jones-esque adventure setting. It kind of evoked that a little bit, which was nice, and I enjoyed that. We're learning a little bit more about Caleb. I'm finding him interesting. Aaron Paul's doing a pretty solid job with this. What we found out about Charlotte was actually kind of unsettling in an odd way. In terms of the background and what we learned about her, the fact that she is estranged from the father of her child, the fact that she even has a child is... Actually, it was very off-putting because last season we only ever knew Charlotte in the context of the park and her role in running the park, and she was ruthless as hell in that context. We never really got to know her otherwise as a person. And now, after everything's gone down and she's dead, we get this context of a son who loves her, and she loved, who doesn't know she's gone. That hurt, and that also gave an interesting layer, and it's an interesting thing to sort of remind the audience. And I think it's the sort of thing that plays much better in a series than it would have in a film. This sort of they were the villain. It was fun to see, or a villain is force, and it was fun to see them get defeated, but they were still a person. There is still fallout. There are still people who will miss them. And I kind of like how they introduced that, and I don't feel like they were hammering that with a sledgehammer. I feel like it was well introduced because it's introducing it basically as part of how the Charlotte we now have has to integrate and fake it. And so it's put through the filter that is very natural to the narrative, but it's kind of off-putting. And yet we are also watching this new Charlotte develop a protective streak, a violent one at that, which I'm not going to say was necessarily cathartic. Again, a little bit like, oh, geez, for a number of reasons. But, like, okay, this is interesting. And that's sort of where I keep coming back to. I am really curious to see where this is going to go. I'm kind of hoping we'll get a really strong standalone episode soon, because I think a big part of why at least I personally like the second season of Westworld better than the first one is I think there are much better, strong standalone episodes, and it doesn't completely hinge on the overarching story. Every season has had one. But, like, for instance, the episodes in season 2 completely set in the samurai world, or the one that dealt completely with Aki. Those were amazing pieces of standalone storytelling that, while contributing to the overall story, I can rewatch and not worry about how it builds off of or builds up to what comes next. I get to enjoy them completely. And so I'm hoping we get something like that from this season and soon, because otherwise it's just one big serialized thing, which is not a bad thing. That can still work, but that was one of the elements that I really loved about the second season, and I hope they haven't lost the thread on that. And that's kind of where I am. There's a really good amount of tension around everything that is going on. I both enjoy and don't trust Dolores, which is the best feeling to have about her. Everybody's putting in good work. A lot of questions to be answered. But since I'm not big into theorizing, I'm not going to dig into that. That's for other folks to do. For now, those are my thoughts. Westworld, you've been keeping up with it. What do you think so far? Drop things down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Like, subscribe, the usual stuff. And as always, you can just swing on back the next time you need a break.